There comes a moment in your healing journey when you realize something has fundamentally shifted inside you. The old triggers don't work anymore. The guilt trips that once sent you spiraling into self-doubt now feel like transparent manipulation attempts. The emotional blackmail that used to make you question your own sanity now seems almost comically obvious. You've built boundaries that feel solid, developed self-worth that doesn't depend on their approval, and found an inner strength that no amount of their rage or tears can shake. You feel victorious, liberated, finally free from their psychological prison. But if you're watching this video, you've probably already discovered the terrifying truth. This is exactly when narcissists become most dangerous. This is when they stop playing games and reach for their most devastating weapon. A weapon so insidious that it can undo years of healing in a single, calculated strike. If you've gotten stronger and noticed a shift in their tactics, if you've sensed something darker and more desperate in their recent behavior, I urge you to like this video, share it with others who need this warning, and subscribe to this channel. Because what we're about to explore could be the difference between maintaining your hard-won freedom and falling back into a web of manipulation more sophisticated than anything you've experienced before. Carl Jung understood that human consciousness operates on multiple levels, and that those who refuse to do their own psychological work will inevitably seek to destroy the light they see in others. When you become stronger, when you develop what Jung called genuine self-knowledge and authentic personal power, you become a living testament to everything the narcissist could be but refuses to become. Your strength doesn't just threaten their control over you, it threatens the very foundation of their false self, the elaborate construction of lies and delusions they've built to avoid confronting their own wounded core. And it's precisely at this moment, when their traditional weapons of guilt, fear, and emotional manipulation have lost their power, that they deploy what might be their most dangerous weapon of all, the systematic destruction of your connections to other people. The narcissist's most dangerous weapon isn't rage, though that can be devastating. It isn't the silent treatment, though that can be crushing. It isn't even gaslighting, though that can make you question your own reality. Their most dangerous weapon is their ability to poison the well of your relationships, to contaminate the very support systems that enabled your strength in the first place. They understand, with the cold calculation of a psychological predator, that your healing happened in connection with others, and that your continued strength depends on maintaining those healthy relationships. So they set out to systematically destroy them, using a combination of manipulation, lies, and emotional terrorism that can be so subtle and so believable that even those who love you most might begin to question your version of reality. This weapon manifests as what we might call relationship terrorism, a coordinated campaign designed to isolate you from every person who has supported your growth and healing. But unlike the obvious aggression you might expect, this campaign often begins with apparent concern and false vulnerability. The narcissist approaches your friends, family members, colleagues, or romantic partners with carefully crafted stories about their worry for your mental health, your stability, your judgment. They position themselves as the long-suffering victim who has watched you change in alarming ways, who fears for your well-being, who desperately wants to help but doesn't know how to reach you anymore. The genius of this weapon lies in how it weaponizes your own growth against you. Every positive change you've made becomes evidence of instability in their narrative. Your newfound assertiveness becomes aggression. Your healthy boundaries become controlling behavior. Your emotional independence becomes cold-hearted selfishness. Your ability to call out their manipulation becomes paranoid delusion. They take the very qualities that represent your healing and present them to others as symptoms of deteriorating mental health, all while positioning themselves as the concerned, reasonable party who's trying to help everyone understand what you're really going through. Jung spoke extensively about the shadow and projection, but he also understood how these mechanisms could be weaponized by those with malicious intent. The narcissist projects their own psychological dysfunction onto you, but they don't just do this privately or in direct confrontation. They launch a public relations campaign, systematically visiting everyone in your support network with their projected version of reality. They become master storytellers, weaving narratives so compelling and emotionally manipulative that even people who know you well might begin to wonder if there's truth to their concerns. What makes this weapon particularly devastating is how it targets the very relationships that gave you strength. These are the people who witnessed your growth, who celebrated your breakthroughs, who supported you through the difficult work of healing. But the narcissist understands that most people, even those who care about you deeply, have limited understanding of narcissistic abuse and manipulation. They don't recognize the sophisticated psychological warfare being waged, and they certainly don't expect someone to be capable of such calculated deception. So when the narcissist approaches them with apparent concern, genuine seeming emotion, and carefully selected evidence of your instability, they're often caught completely off guard. The timing of this weapon's deployment is never accidental. The narcissist waits until you're in a particularly vulnerable phase of your healing journey, perhaps dealing with the natural ups and downs of psychological growth, or facing challenges that require support from your network. They strike when you most need the people who care about you, choosing moments when any normal human stress or struggle can be reframed as evidence of psychological breakdown. If you're changing careers, they'll suggest you're having a midlife crisis. If you're ending toxic relationships, they'll claim you're becoming isolated and paranoid. If you're standing up for yourself more frequently, they'll argue you've become unstable and aggressive. The narcissist becomes a master of what we might call concern trolling, expressing worry and care while actually undermining your credibility and relationships. They might tell your best friend that they're concerned about your drinking, your spending habits, your judgment in relationships. They might inform your family that you've been saying strange things, making concerning decisions, behaving in ways that worry them. They might suggest to your colleagues that you're under tremendous stress and might not be thinking clearly. Each conversation is carefully crafted to plant seeds of doubt while maintaining their image as someone who cares deeply about your well-being. The psychological sophistication of this weapon cannot be overstated. The narcissist understands that direct attacks on your character would be too obvious and might backfire. Instead, they launch indirect attacks disguised as concern, using your own vulnerabilities and insecurities as ammunition. They know exactly which buttons to push with each person in your life, which fears to activate, which concerns to amplify. If they're talking to your mother, they might express worry about your financial decisions. If they're talking to your partner, they might question your commitment or emotional stability. If they're talking to your friends, they might suggest you're becoming someone different, someone they should be worried about. Jung understood that authentic relationships are built on trust, empathy, and genuine concern for each other's well-being. The narcissist exploits these very qualities, using people's natural inclination to care as a weapon against you. When someone they trust approaches them with apparent concern about your well-being, most people will naturally want to help, to understand, to be part of the solution. They don't realize they're being manipulated into becoming unwitting accomplices in a campaign of psychological destruction. The most insidious aspect of this weapon is how it can make you question your own perceptions and healing progress. When people you trust begin expressing concerns that mirror the narcissist's narrative, when friends start asking probing questions about your mental health, when family members suggest you might need professional help, it's natural to wonder if there might be some truth to these concerns. This is exactly what the narcissist hopes for: to use your own support network to gaslight you, to make you doubt the very strength and clarity that freed you from their direct control. The weapon often escalates into what we might call intervention theater, orchestrated confrontations designed to look like loving interventions, but actually functioning as public humiliation and psychological breakdown attempts. The narcissist might organize family meetings or friend gatherings where you're confronted with everyone's concerns about your behavior and mental state. These events are carefully staged to maximize your emotional distress while positioning the narcissist as the reasonable party who's trying to help everyone understand what's happening to you. What makes this weapon particularly dangerous is how it can succeed even when it partially fails. Even if some people in your network see through the manipulation, even if your closest allies maintain their trust in you, the mere existence of doubt and concern can be enough to destabilize your sense of security and support. You might find yourself constantly defending your mental health, explaining your choices, proving your stability, all while the narcissist sits back and watches you exhaust yourself trying to counteract their carefully planted poison. The targeting becomes increasingly personal and specific as the campaign continues. The narcissist might share private information you confided in them during vulnerable moments, recontextualizing your struggles as evidence of instability rather than normal human challenges. They might reference your past mistakes, your moments of doubt, your fears and insecurities, but frame them as ongoing concerns rather than resolved issues. They become experts at taking your authentic moments of vulnerability and weaponizing them against your credibility and relationships. Jung would recognize this as one of the most sophisticated forms of psychological warfare, the use of human connection itself as a weapon of destruction. The narcissist doesn't just attack you directly, they turn your entire social ecosystem into a battleground where your own support system becomes a source of stress and doubt. They transform the very relationships that gave you strength into question marks, concerns, potential threats to your emotional stability. But here's what the narcissist doesn't anticipate, what their wounded consciousness cannot comprehend. Truly strong people, people who have done genuine healing work, people who have developed authentic self-knowledge, cannot be destroyed by external opinion or relationship manipulation. When you have developed real strength, not the brittle defensiveness of ego, but the flexible resilience of genuine self-awareness, you become capable of something the narcissist fears more than anything else: the ability to stand alone if necessary, while remaining open to genuine connection. The ultimate failure of this weapon lies in its very nature. Authentic relationships cannot be destroyed by lies and manipulation in the long term. People who truly know you, who have witnessed your genuine growth and healing, who understand your character and values, will eventually see through even the most sophisticated campaigns of deception. The narcissist's weapon may create temporary chaos, confusion, and pain, but it cannot ultimately destroy connections built on truth, mutual respect, and genuine care. In fact, the deployment of this weapon often becomes the narcissist's final unmasking. When they resort to systematic relationship destruction, when they launch campaigns of concern trolling and intervention theater, when they weaponize human connection itself, they reveal the true depths of their pathology to anyone with the wisdom to see clearly. Your real allies will recognize the manipulation for what it is, and those who don't were perhaps never the secure foundation you thought they were. The narcissist's most dangerous weapon becomes, paradoxically, a clarifying force that helps you identify who truly belongs in your healed life and who has been taking up space that should be reserved for genuine love and support.